Hello and welcome to Public Speaking Tips and Tales with Speaking Coach Kelly. This podcast is dedicated to helping you become a more confident and effective speaker. I'm your host, Kelly K. Walker, and each week we'll dive headfirst into the deep end of public speaking. I'll share real stories from the stage, interview other speakers, and evaluate speeches to show you what works on stage and what doesn't. So let's get started. This is the Cliff Notes condensed version of great storytelling. Okay, so number one. Did you hear I just started with okay, so? Oh my gosh. That's totally against my role as a speaking coach. And I just did it. Now I know why it's so hard not to say it. It's so natural. Anyway, all right. Rewind. I'm not going to edit that out. Tip number one. Remember that your story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Make sure you have all three parts. If you tell a story without an ending, people are going to be left hanging and they're not going to like that. So make sure you have all three parts. Number two, don't forget to have characters. In your story, of course, you're usually the main character, but describe the other people that you're interacting with. Give their names, tell why are they in your story? Why are you interacting with them? Do they have a little backstory you need to bring up? You don't have to spend a ton of time developing all the characters, but make sure it's not just you in the story, because you can't have conflict if there's only one person in the story. We want to hear the conflict, and we also want to hear the resolution to the conflict. So make sure you wrap it up at the end. Practice. Number three is practice. Storytelling is a skill that can be learned. So practice telling stories. You could do like a live video, a Facebook, a reel on Instagram or TikTok. Just practice telling stories so that you get used to it. And it's really good if you can practice in front of people, because then you will get feedback by the looks on their faces and whether they're paying attention or whether they're pulling out their phones, which is a really bad sign that you need to work on your storytelling skills. You never want people to pull out their phones. That's rough. All right, number four, grab attention by starting strong. And here's my rule that I just broke earlier. Never start with the words, okay, so. But you see how easy it is. I know I need to be more lenient with my clients, because when they do that, I'm like, stop, you said okay, so. So I need to be a little more lenient, maybe, because I just did it myself. The best thing to do is just start in your story. Either do a cool attention grabbing activity like raise your hand if you, and then something that goes with your speech. Or it's really cool to just start in the middle of your story, like at a climactic point of conflict or something like that. That's a really good way to start your speech. Just start strong. Don't get up there and apologize. Don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not very prepared, or sorry, I just worked on this last night, or I've heard so many apologies at the beginning of a speech, it makes me sick. Don't apologize when you start your speech. All right, number five, vocal variety. This is the spice of speaking. So you want to shake a little spice, little seasoning into your speech by talking faster, louder, slower, or quieter, and change your tone of voice. If you're doing a line from another person, change your tone of voice. You don't want to sound like a robot. That's terrible. People will fall asleep. So think about where you could talk faster. Where could you talk louder? If you're telling something really exciting, you can get loud and fast and it makes sense. And then if you're telling about this really bad struggle that you had and how hard it was, then you can slow down and you can get quiet. And that's really appropriate. And also add a pause. When you say something really important or really profound or really deep, you've got to stop and let people process it. So give a good 3 counts in your head while you're pausing to let people process what you just said. And if you are brave enough, have eye contact with the people in the audience while you're doing the pause. If 3 seconds is too hard for you for eye contact, split it between two people. But man, if you can keep eye contact with one person for 3 seconds during a pause, woo-hoo-hoo, people are going to get chills. It'll be amazing. All right, number 6 was pause. Number 6 was pause. You're welcome. Oh, you too can be a public speaker. All right, number 7, feel emotions and let them show. Again, you don't want to be a robot. You want to have emotions as a storyteller. If there's a funny part, get a smile on your face, get silly, get happy. When you're in a sad part, if it hurts you a little bit still, that's good because you can tap into that emotion of pain and your audience will feel it. And the more emotions your audience can feel during a speech, the more they're going to feel like they had an experience and they're going to remember it and they're going to connect with you. So don't be afraid to show your emotions. If you cry on stage, awesome. If you turn into a puddle of tears on the floor and you can't speak, that's not awesome. That's going too far. So if you can talk about something and get emotional about it without losing complete control, that is perfect. If you can't talk about something without losing control, it's not time to talk about it yet. So keep working your way through it. And someday it might be a really great story that you tell from stage, but wait until you can speak about it without falling apart. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8, I should have numbered these, is add suspense and drama. People love a good plot twist, and they love it when you build up the suspense. It gets so exciting. So if you've got this really cool plot twist coming, build up to it slowly. Give hints about it. Talk in a roundabout way, but never actually say it until you're ready to reveal it. And then the big reveal is going to be super exciting. Just don't blurt it out at the beginning. That is no fun. People like a little bit of drama and suspense. All right, number 9, paint a picture with your words. What I mean is use all the senses that you can involve, all the details that you can remember that matter. Don't do a bunch of stupid extra details that nobody cares about, because then you turn into a Shaggy Dog story and those are not pleasant. So details that matter, but remember as many as you can so that you can make your story a living memory that somebody can just walk in with you. I call these snapshots, and I have a whole episode about snapshots. Tell us what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what you smelled, if there was a smell. Smell is the strongest memory recall. If you can remember a smell, oh my gosh, so many vivid memories come with smells. So especially if you can describe that. But if you use all the senses and all the important details you can think of, you will transport your audience through time. They will feel like they just time traveled back to that moment with you, and it will be amazing. And they'll be able to picture the whole thing vividly in their minds as if they had been there. That is some quality storytelling. All right, number 10, be yourself. Don't pretend that you're somebody smarter, cooler, richer, better. Just be you, because people can smell a phony from 1,000 miles and they hate it. People do not like phonies. And in this day and age, authenticity above all is important, because if you get up there and you are like fake rah energy and let's go and everybody stand up, and if that's not your energy, don't fake it, because it's so repulsive. Just be yourself, but be your best self. Be on. I don't know if you've heard this story about Marilyn Monroe, but I love it so much. I'm going to tell you about it. She was being interviewed for an article and she was with the interviewer all day. And they were out in public and the interviewer was like, why doesn't anybody recognize you? Because people were just ignoring them and letting them go about their business in New York City. And she said, Oh, that's because I haven't turned it on. And he's like, what? What does that mean? So she showed him what it meant. And she suddenly, all her energy changed, her personality came out, she turned it, she lit up, and all of a sudden, everybody around them recognized her and started going crazy. So that is what I mean by be your best self. Turn it on. Step into your most amazing version of you, but still be you. Be authentic to you. Don't fake it. Don't try to perform as somebody that you think is a great speaker. Don't walk out and say, oh, I'm going to be Tony Robbins today. Because if you're not Tony Robbins, it's going to feel weird to your audience. All right, we're almost done. Number 11, connect to your audience with universal themes and experiences that they could actually relate to. So maybe they haven't failed at landing a TED Talk and been turned down 6 times, but maybe they can relate to trying for something that they really wanted multiple times and failing, but not giving up. And they kept trying and they kept trying until eventually, hopefully, they achieved it. Like I will hopefully someday get a TED Talk because that is my goal. But if you talk about things that people can step into and understand your feeling, understand what it was like for you because they've been through something similar, then that is going to be a powerful connecting point between you and the audience. Another example of that, I'm trying to think of good examples for that. If you were to ask somebody out on a date, right? That is super vulnerable, super hard for people. And then if they say no, super embarrassing. So just think about ways you could relate your story to something memorable that people have been through that could match up with the feelings you had during your experience. That way you can tap into that universal theme magic and they'll get it without having to understand exactly what it feels like to apply for a TED Talk and be turned down 6 times, right? All right, finally, number 12, know your audience. This is really important. I think that usually you know who your audience is because you are either having your own webinar or you're teaching your own class or you're holding your own event. So you're attracting people that you know that know you. But sometimes you are speaking at somebody else's event and you're not exactly sure who the audience is. Make sure that you find out beforehand. Do a little bit of research. If it's not your own event, ask the event producer for some demographics and some psychographics. So if you're not sure what that means, demographic means like age, marital status, occupation, where they live, urban or rural areas, things like that, that are measurable. And then psychographics are the inner things that you can't measure and that sometimes they won't even talk about. Things like what keeps them up worrying at night, what's their biggest regret, what's their biggest goal, what's their biggest motivation, what keeps them going, what shuts them down, that kind of thing. So make sure you know as much as you can about an audience before you get up and speak. You don't want to get up to a room full of women struggling with infertility and complain about how rowdy your kids are, right? Because that's going to make them feel really bad and not resonate with them at all. And then they're going to think, wow, this speaker is terrible and does not get us. And why is she even here? So make sure you study and research and find out who your audience is if it's not your own audience that you created yourself. Okay, so I just did okay, so again. Oh my gosh. I need to go back to speaker training myself. Oh, I got to work on that. Those were my top 12 Cliff Notes version of speaker tips that are all really good for helping you become a better storyteller and to really connect with the audience that is there listening to you tell stories. All right, I hope you love this episode. If you liked it, please give us a 5-star rating and share this with anybody you know needs help with this. And as always, if you have a desire to get on stage and share your story, but you can't figure out which ones to tell, download my free workbook. It's called 10 Steps to Find the Message in Your Mess. And it walks you through the process of finding and remembering your life stories and then figuring out which ones will help your ideal audience the most and how to turn them into a signature presentation. To get that, just go to kellykWalker.com/workbook. And if you need help spelling my middle name, which most people do, I'll spell the whole thing out. KELLYWalker.com/workbook. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining, and I will see you in the next one.